All right, so in light of Thanksgiving week, I figured we would talk about moving your family to Orlando, some of the struggles I went through when our family moved here, on top of just things that I've had clients just bring up, concerns, questions, blocks in the road, everything. Because honestly, when it comes to recloading a family, it's hard enough having kids. And also I'm unloading my car at the same time because, well, it's Thanksgiving. So we just got done going to the store and I'm doing all this other stuff all at the same time. But hey, when you got a family, you just gotta fit stuff in. So when it came to relocating to Orlando, obviously when it comes to having a family, one of the first things that comes up is schools, right? Like having a school, like where do you put kids into the school? And that's usually one of the biggest things that people come up to. And one of the first things that, well, we ran into, as well as like other clients have run into, is they just don't answer. Like I've had clients who have kids who have special needs and things like that, and they try and reach out to the schools for like questions and stuff like that, and they just don't hear back.
Anyway, I'm just calling to double check because I didn't hear back from you.
I will tell you that it's not so much that schools are terrible here, it's that there's so many people moving here that when they have all these questions and all this stuff going on, I think they're just overwhelmed. I mean, I think the rough stat that I still think holds true is like 1,000 people a day are moving to Florida. And obviously Orlando is not an exception to that. So that's one of the things that people run into when it comes to moving here is, well, getting kids into school. Obviously public schools aren't really an issue. When you pick a neighborhood, you move into an area and you find the school that you want to move into, it's pretty simple. And you just enroll them into school like you would any other place in the country. We didn't see any difference with that. Now, we chose to homeschool our kids this year, and that's obviously a big transition in itself. So the cool thing is, if you are looking to do that, and when it comes to homeschooling, well, there's a massive community of families and other people that are doing homeschooling here, and we have so many co-ops and things like that it's been an amazing experience getting to meet all those other people. We even had a Friendsgiving yesterday where our kids got to play for like hours. We all brought food. It was an awesome time. But when it comes to private and charter schools, now it's a whole different story. Now, I will tell you that the hard thing when it comes to private schools and things like that is there's usually a long waiting list.
I'm sorry, Mr. DeMar, but there's a very long waiting list.
Now, private schools, there are some big ones here, obviously around Orlando, and that's not really an issue. But when it came to charter schools and things like that, there are definitely a long waiting list. So charter schools obviously are publicly funded, and obviously when your kids go there, you're not paying any money out of pocket, really, except maybe getting uniforms or something like that. Because a lot of charter schools here, obviously if it's a Christian school and stuff like that, run into uniforms. And that could be an expense for you and your family, which is obviously negligible when you think of the cost of school. But a lot of people run into the fact that there is a massive waiting list. And if you're not working at one of those schools, like you don't get priority. Now, some schools have certain like minority priorities or maybe things like that. It really depends on the school, like what's going on and the state programs at the time. But a lot of times that waiting list is insanely long, and you're probably gonna have to go, your child's gonna have to go to public school during that time. Or maybe private school. Now, private schools can get pricey as well, so keep that in mind. And I tell people that if you're looking to move last minute or halfway through the school year, private and charter schools may not be an option. A lot of them have open enrollment starting in the spring of that school year. So if you are looking at one of our clients is moving halfway through the school year towards the end of the school year, that's something they're going to run into is they're going to probably start with public school and then transition their child to public school or something like that. So schools are a huge issue. Actually, down in the description of this video, OrlandoTampaLiving.com, but it's just for Orlando. It's a whole website on Orlando. I have some free resources there for schools, things that I've used, and you can hop in that website and search, and you'll be able to get all that information. It's a little bit easier than you would going anywhere else. Now, the next thing that usually people run into when it comes to moving a family is cost, right? Because obviously, not only you're trying to find the school district to move into, you're also running into an issue of what your budget is and what neighborhoods are safe and things like that. Obviously, it really comes down to what do you need as a family? And for us, our biggest concern was just getting established in a safe community, and we went with that first. We ended up going into the north tip of Polk County, around Davenport, Haines City, that area. And it's great, but the one thing we ran into very quickly is how crowded it is. Right now, the week of Thanksgiving, the 27, insanely crowded. There are so many people there, it is insane. And trying to get around and do all that stuff while you're here is just, it's very, very hard because there's so many people, it's crowded. I mean, I just got done going to Aldi's, right? And it is just like insanely crowded, traffic, it's nuts, right? So that's the one hard thing is if you live in between Kissimmee, Champions Gate, maybe even Four Corners a little bit, not so much Four Corners though is bad, but like definitely Davenport, Haines City, like that stretch between there, like that Disney corridor, I mean, it is, the influx during holiday season is insane, and even really throughout the entire year. So that's something you got to run into, is that if you're traveling a lot, or your family is really going on the road a lot, like that's something you're going to have to run into. A lot of people, obviously, the further you get from those areas, the calmer it can be in your home life. But also keep in mind, picture, where are you traveling a lot? Like, are you going to Tampa a lot? Well, then you're probably gonna have to run through that corridor no matter what, unless you're trying to move closer to Lakeland and deal with stuff like that. But yeah, the safety is a big thing that people run into with families, and we ran into the same thing with ourselves. And I can tell you, we rushed into the first area we moved to when we came to Orlando. So if you're in that position and you're feeling rushed, it's definitely good. That's obviously that's why the Orlando Living Team, that's why we exist. I mean, being in the military, I've relocated a lot. And even coming here to Orlando, we specialize in helping you get you and your family to Orlando. So somewhere popping below is how you can get a hold of us. So you can call, text, email. And because I understand it's not just about making real estate decisions. As an agent, obviously we do a lot with that with our people, but it's not just that. As you mentioned, I mentioned before, it's a lot of times it's dealing with the whole package of relocation. Like, it's complicated. And if the people that are helping you do it don't understand how complicated it is, and they've never done it themselves, like how are you going to be able to get you and your family here for the least amount of stress as possible? I mean, the road trip alone, getting kids here, was insane and stressful. So you can always reach out to us. Let's have a conversation. Let's create that plan to get you out here to Orlando. Now, yeah, safety is a big concern. I usually just Google. You can Google like safety stats for any community. You can go into Google, you'll pull up crime data. It's very, very simple, and that's usually how I start the process. Obviously, driving physically into locations is another big step as well. Some of our clients recently have actually gone into the new construction communities, and I will tell you, and that actually brings me to the next point, which is people are always like, Cameron, how are the communities? How are the people? I don't want to be moving to a community where, people aren't friendly, they're not nice. And I can tell you, if you're in a newer community here in Orlando, for sure, just because that's where I spend a lot of our time, but also like living outside the community as well, and just like regular homes, people are generally pretty nice here. Now there's a lot of people, and a lot of people that aren't always from here. So you get the crazies.
What is all this? Are you crazy?
Like I told our client, I think yesterday when they were talking with us, is like, look, you get the crazies. You get the crazy people. They come from other places. They're angry. They hate life. You're gonna find those people here. It's a city. It's a crowded area. It's just gonna happen. Like, if you want like really, really small communities, like, then you're gonna be looking at a small town outside, or like even Claremont and stuff like that. I think is a growing community. They actually just got a Costco that's opening up there as well, so it's awesome. But communities are pretty nice here. I mean, for the most part, we've got free furniture when we moved in. People are trying to help us out. There's kids playing all the time. I mean, communities here have not been an issue when it comes to moving here. I'm actually really surprised I didn't run into as much of an issue with communities. So overall, like, you find the crazies, they exist, but I have been very impressed with the level of people that I've met here in Orlando. And what's funny is you still see people who is like, people are angry here. If you're searching for bad things and you're just a negative person, then I guess you're gonna find it.
Don't look for trouble, and trouble won't look for you.
But the cool thing is there are so many, like I mentioned, homeschooling groups. There are just like general like family groups. They get together and go to Disney. Like, there's so much going on here for community, because a lot of people move here and they don't have family. They don't have friends. They're literally starting from scratch, like me and my family did. And that's why they're in that position, because they're just trying to get a community. They're trying to build their community. And there's a lot of that stuff going on here. So if you're concerned about running into a bad community or things like that, I promise you, if you put in the work and get the right things, or if you work with us, like I can point you with what I do know, because my wife's always into that stuff. So obviously that's something that I can help you with, because building that community is really, really important when you get here. Because I don't care what city you're moving to, if you end up deciding to move away from Orlando, you have to build a community. It doesn't matter where you move. Like, you have to build your community. You got to put in the work and find those people. But that's why it's so important, obviously, that's, I think, out of all the steps we talked about with schools and everything, like, that could make or break your family when coming here, especially having boys. Like, they gotta get outside, they gotta get active, they gotta do stuff. Like, those guys need to be tired by the time they hit bed. I mean, my wife are even thinking about getting a house with a couple acres of land, right? Like, you move somewhere, like, your plans change, things change. And all that exists here around Orlando. It all depends on your budget and what you're trying to look for as a family. So really sitting down with your spouse, or maybe it's just you and your kids, like whatever it is, but you gotta find and figure out what kind of community do you want. And that's really what's gonna dictate what part of Orlando you should live in. Because it's not always about your drive for work. While that's important, it's also about like how your home life is going to be. I think that's one of the biggest things that we kind of rushed into a little bit when we came to. Now, we got lucky with where we chose to live, but there are things where we're like, you know what, I definitely would have done this differently if I had actually talked to someone who with a little more experience before we made the move out here. But obviously, when it comes down to it, like your family is a complicated situation. Things are always changing. Things are always like, you know, specific to your family. And that's why it's important to make sure you do the research ahead of time. Now, I've had everyone. I've had people who just literally show up last minute and this recycling truck comes down the road. People like last minute, like it's okay, you can still build this plan, but understand like the longer you have, like if you're looking at moving in next year or 2 years, then you're even in a better position to start doing that research. But even if you are moving last minute or your job's relocating you and your family, after coming from a veteran, I can tell you, you can absolutely make the right plan. Things are a little bit faster and a little bit more stressful, but that's why it's always more important to reach out to someone, or even if you are lucky enough to have friends and family here, getting their input a little bit is important because it can help you guide you what area is best for you when it comes to Orlando. But if you do have the ability to even see the area, I always recommend to either come with you and your spouse or the whole family together for a vacation and just travel around every neighborhood that you think is important. Like it's like a discovery trip. Come out here, test the area. It makes you understand what areas are best for you, because there were areas that we thought when we made our discovery trip that we thought would be a good fit. Come to find out, like there's like, it just, the community didn't feel right. You know, and you'll know when you come out here and take a discovery trip. So that's like one of the last things I can kind of leave you with when it comes to coming out here with a family. And to recap everything, it's obviously schools, where your job's gonna be placing you for travel time. What does your family do in their free time? And really trying to get an idea of what kind of communities you wanna be involved in. Because like Orlando is such a melting pot. I've been to a lot of places in Florida. Orlando is a huge melting pot of different people. And you have to find your community. They're all here in Orlando. You just gotta find them. You gotta find your community, your tribe, what you're trying to do. And I don't care what kind of thing you're into, what you're looking to do. Obviously you see the clothing I wear, but guess what? I have friends all over walks of life. And that's one thing I love from coming here, because being in the military, that's how it was, is that everyone's from different walks of life. And the cool thing about Orlando is I've really gotten to experience that here. Even yesterday at the Friendsgiving, like we got to see kids from every walk of life who have moved here, and they didn't have anyone just like us when we moved here. So that's one of the greatest things about moving to Orlando with family. And while it can seem stressful, I promise you can do it. And if you are looking to make that move and you need that help, the number popping up below is how you can get a hold of us. Now, I'm gonna let you guys go. I gotta finish unloading this car and I gotta make some pizza for these boys because I know they're starving. But hey, I hope you got value in this video. And again, look forward to seeing you in the next one.